it, so I know the lighting's bad here. But the first thing we gotta do is take loose our starter. Then we'll take loose our handful of bell housing bolts. Transmission will come loose. Like I said, we already drained it. Transmission will come loose. We'll take off our pressure plate, flywheel, and we'll be ready to go ahead and throw this engine on our stand. So let's get started with the starter first. Started with the starter. Okay, so let's grab some tools. 17 millimeter. Should be one behind this. Yeah, looks like that's about a 14. Okay, so that's out. So, all right, so next, start with our bell housing bolt. So, let's see, there's one here. So that one's probably 17 as well. Long time since I put this car together. So. I don't know why I'm using this huge extension, but seems like the right thing to do. Got another one up here. Now we're on this one. That'll work. One more right back here, right behind this half shaft, and I gotta unbolt the half shaft as well. So. Right. Just wiggle it. If you have to, get you a pry bar. In this case, there was only 2 bolts because in order for this A2 shaft to fit this Z7, I had to cut one of the ears off. So usually there'd be 3. In this case, we only have 2. Now we need to separate the 2 halves. Just wiggle it, see if it. Oh yeah. No problem. Okay, next we pull our clutch assembly, which has about, I think, 6 bolts holding the pressure plate on. And in this case we've got Allen's, because the OEM hardware was stupid expensive, and these are the only ones I could find at the time in 12.9 hardness. Little tip: whenever I put this stuff together, I always put a dab of red Loctite on your pressure plate bolts and your flywheel bolts, because and torque them to stock spec, because they can come loose. Another thing I like to do when I put this stuff together is, with the splines and everything, I put a light coat of grease on all that. Anything metal on metal, you want to put a light coat of grease on there. Yeah, 17-12 point. It's sketchy, but I'm going to use the impact on these. Just that way I don't have to worry about trying to hold the hold them still. Okay, no trouble there. Yeah. blows. Okay. Okay, so I washed this engine a couple times. I used degreaser, some emulsifier, got it pretty clean. Used that old toothbrush to kind of agitate some areas, but still not as clean as I'd like. So I picked up some stuff I've used in the past, some other parts. It's called aluminum brightener, and really you can spray it on and just let it sit and spray it off, man. It makes a big difference, but still got some kind of tough spots on here. So I also picked up a brass brush, and you know, am I thinking that it'll be more aggressive than like a nylon, but since brass is soft, it shouldn't really gouge the aluminum. And if it does scratch it some, that's okay. But so I'm gonna try this out and see what this does, and hopefully it'll get the some of this remaining dirt off. You see how dark and gray, how dark some of these spots are. Okay, so I got the engine cleaned up with the aluminum brightener, and I think it looks really good. Again, it's not perfect. There's some places you can't really get into, but man, this thing looks really good. So, and you know, I see some people, VHT makes a really good flat aluminum, like a flat cast aluminum paint, that looks almost like just bare aluminum. And that's an option if you got a really nasty block. You can paint it and make it look really good, but I didn't want to have to worry about down the road flaking or anything like that. So I'd rather just keep it bare and for heat dissipation. I'll show you what it looks like now. Like I said, it's not perfect, but and I also did some of the small aluminum parts, and man, they're like brand new. So next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my intake manifold, and I think it's gonna make a big difference on that. So we'll see in just a minute. So let's look at the engine. Okay, here's this side, which it looks really good, which this side really wasn't that bad to start with. But in the front, I'd already pretty well cleaned the front up. This was the worst. And like I said, there's some spots you couldn't really get into, but it really does look a lot better on this side. And this is the more visible side of the engine. So and even this bracketry right here cleaned up, man, really good. So really pleased with that. Here are I cleaned up these brackets. You can see how good these look. They're over here drying, but these look like brand new. Even think this alternator was terrible. And I know it's probably not a good idea to clean it like this, but I just couldn't stand the way it. Man, it was so brown through here. It looks a lot better. And this is an OEM Honda one, so I want to retain this. But you know, if this messed it up, whatever, I'll get another one. But I couldn't stand putting a dirty one back on. So now let's do this intake, see how it comes out. So let's get a before of it. It's not terrible, but I feel like these pores are really dirty in here. So let's see if it makes a difference. have to say I'm very happy with this. It's actually nice and silver. So you look at the bottom. See how dirty and brown and gray it was, but man, big difference, big difference. Very pleased. So look good on our engine.